My name is Lorraine Dixon, and I am the National Coordinator of the Green Key program in Kenya. Green Key is an international eco-certification for the tourism industry, and we are the Kenyan chapter for the certification management. And we've been running a series of webinars on how tourism businesses can make the most of sustainability as a strategy for restarting their businesses after the crisis that we have been facing with COVID-19. This is the last of the series, and we've been able to cover issues of hygiene and sustainability. We've been able to cover water and energy efficiency. We've also heard from our regulators, NEMA, on legal obligations of hospitality businesses in as far as waste management is concerned. And last week, we had a fantastic session on sustainability business strategy. Today, we finish up with part 2 on waste management, looking at what waste really costs hospitality establishments and what strategies can be used to control this and optimize the bottom line, particularly during lean times such as what we are facing today. Our session will be led by James Gabage, and he will introduce himself. I will be jumping in to finalize the session, and we hope that you will find the tips that we will share useful for your business and be able to take them forward. You're also more than welcome to reach out to us at the end, and we will share a little bit more information as we wind up the session. So James, I'll hand over to you. Thank you. James, if you're talking, you're on mute.
Oh my, okay. Am I clear now?
Yes, you are, thank you.
Okay, so sorry for that, that is technology for you. So just saying that working from home is okay because you don't have to wear your mask, so you can speak more conveniently. Yeah? So this morning, I want us to just have a discussion on the new normal, or the new norm, if you may call it, in the hospitality and everywhere else, as far as what we call the true cost of waste in hospitality. So who is James? Let me just see, I'm trying to get my video going. Just a minute. Trying to move my screen without a lot of success. Ah, yeah, there you are. So James Gabage is a chemical engineer who trained several years ago from the University of Leeds in chemical engineering. And since then, I've been working on process management, helping organizations implement international management systems in all lines, and specifically in the food safety systems. So where do we come into all this? So let's go to the next slide. And there is this big agenda on what we're going to look at is what is the big deal about waste, our legal obligations about waste. And here we are very, very lucky that the last couple of, in our last webinar, we had people from NEMA who really told us that gave us a very good laydown on our legal obligations. But I'll touch this a bit now more on how it applies to us in the sector. And my main topic today is what does waste really cost us? And it's very, very important for us. And then how do you optimize waste management? Then a summary, then after that, Q&A. So why the big deal about waste? Is because waste costs money, all right? And if you look at, let's say, in the hospitality industry, studies have shown that 1 kilogram of waste per guest night, all right? If you look at that, that might not make a lot of sense, but you know, you look at the number of guest nights, and we are always wanting in a hotel to have a full occupancy. But if every guest coming to you is about 1 kg of waste, then you now start saying that the double size of the coin. You want the guests, but then there's this amount. So poorly managed waste threatens both health and the quality of our environment. It is expensive for your business, as you often pay twice for the waste you produce, firstly in the form of packaging, and secondly in the terms in the disposal. Waste is something we get used to, and at one time or the other, it becomes like your habit. It hides, waste hides right in front of you, because you get to do things just the way you are doing, the way you've been doing, until the day you realize, or let's say somebody mentions to you, hey, why are you doing this? So let's look at some of the areas where all this about 1 kg per guest night is coming from. First of all, let's look at what happens to the environment and waste. Definitely, you and me want to go and enjoy our beach holidays wherever we can, and definitely this is not what you want to see when you're walking up and down the beach. Yes, but this is caused by you and me at one time or the other, because the ocean didn't manufacture any of these. It's we who brought it where it is. So definitely it interferes with your good living. Yeah, in hotels, this might sound very much like in a factory, but in hotels nowadays we have generators, we have boilers and all this and that. That steam coming out, that smoke coming out of all those emissions coming out of there, it's money. It's money. And like we had one time, one of our presenters, when they did talked about energy audits and other things, yeah, you realize that any unburnt fuel or any fuel that is not well burnt, when it's actually coming out of there, it just means that you are having money coming out, and that is will be considered as waste. So these are some of the things that you need to really start thinking about. But as I say, sometimes when you look at the stuff or emissions from your, from your boilers and all, you just see smoke. And this is why I'm saying that waste hides right in front of our eyes and we don't see it. So you need to start rethinking of your waste. The next thing that I want to look at is if this thing will help me again. My cursor is stuck. Just a minute. Yeah. So major streams of waste in hospitality. Food waste. This we are very, very familiar with, because I guess one of the things we got to do in hospitality areas is to indulge in food, and so food waste is something that we are very familiar with. When you're in the hotel, there is definitely the waste paper that comes in, and this waste paper could be from the packaging, it could be from many other sources, but there you are. Definitely glass is another big waste that we find in hotels. Plastics, and you know, NEMA has now banned some of the plastics, but still, you and me, if you look around, you still have a lot of this that you use. And then let's say things like cleaning solvents. So these will be there. The list is not exhaustive, but I think you need to look at, you know, this, where am I? The next thing we want to look at is, and this is from a very high overview, is your legal obligations on waste. The water quality regulations, which you are taught about waste and effluent, is in your kitchen. Definitely, where a lot of water is used, it goes out with some of the oils and all and all this and that. And you need now to ensure that that effluent meets the requirements of NEMA. What you're talking about, air quality regulations that came out recently, but now it's being enforced, is emissions from your boilers and generators. Right, so you need to to ensure that they meet those regulations. NEMA, as I say, talked to us about this, and I'm sure Lorraine can share some of the details that they give us. And if not, if you go to the NEMA website, you'll be able to see all the requirements of these regulations. Of course, then we have the ban on single-use plastics, which came into effect some time back. And you know, the country fought very, very hard, because most of us were used to those nylon papers that when you went to a supermarket, life was not complete without them, and we never knew that life would be complete. But today there is a new norm. I mean, when you go to a supermarket, or if today when you're walking up and down the street, if you see somebody carrying those old paper bags, you will say, hey, what's happening? So we do change with time. Okay. Then we want to look at the next thing is, what does waste really cost you, which is the subject of our webinar today. I would like to start off with what we call the iceberg of waste, right? Mainly what you see is your disposal costs. This is whereby, let's say, like if you are having people like Takataka or other people, this is what you think, this is how much you're paying them. Because this is a bill you get from them at the end of the month. And we think that's all. But you see, below that, what is in there? If you start looking at energy costs, and we shall be going through that. Today, I would challenge you, most of you, if you are, let's say, most of you in hospitality, go and open your fridge, go and open your cold room, find out the items that are in there. You might find that there are plastic food covered in plastics. There is food covered in other cartons and other things. And if you look at it and look at how much you are spending to cool paper, to cool plastics from, let's say, room temperature that came in about 25 degrees to 0 degrees and then to minus degrees, that is energy that you're wasting. And if you sort of just looked at, let's say, a bit of your energy cost, you really see how much you are using to cool unnecessary foods that will end up sometimes also in the garbage. There is, let's say, lost labor, where you are looking at the labor that you use to manage, to handle those items that really then will end up being wasted at the end of the day, and lost materials, liabilities, and risks. And on average, it says that on average, the true cost of wasted material is about 10 times the cost of disposal. So if you are paying the person who comes and cuts away your waste, you're paying them 100 shillings, then 1,000 shillings is your waste cost. So one of the things you really need is to rethink, right? Look at whatever it is that you're doing and look to see where, because the client who comes to your hotel or to your restaurant pays for something, right? And if you look at the transactions that you have done, the steps you have done to reach to what he pays, then the rest you might have to consider it as your waste. So it's very, very important that you keep on looking to see where all these things that you're doing will be involved in your true cost of waste. Now, some of the shocking things is up to 80% of waste is organic, right? And so when we look at 80% of waste being organic, in our hospitality, organic mainly is about just one item: food, all right? And so if you look at, as I say, that waste bin, and you look at, if you have 100 kilos of the waste bin, if 80 kilos is food waste, where did it come from? All right. Down here we have that in your food preparation, 45 part of this 45% is contributed by food preparation, is spoilage of food and customer plate. So you can see about a third of the cost will be customer plate, food preparation, and spoilage. And all these are elements that are within your control. Yeah. When you come to customer plate, then you have to sort of look at, in our new norm, the plating. How are you going to plate your food such that 30% of this 80 doesn't come from what the customer loses, all right? Spoilage definitely is also very much within your control, because when you look at your food supply chain, you can see what is causing spoilage. Then of course on the food preparation. All right. So as I say, these are areas that are so very much within your control. And the good thing is that if you put in about $1 investment in managing these elements here, you have 7 times the recovery. That's a very high rate of return. And we're going to look at some of the areas whereby that happens. But the beauty of this is that the basis of this 80% is within your control. So let's just see again 1 or 2 elements that can help us. So where is this 80% coming from? Let's look at what I normally call the 5-star treatment of waste that adds up. All right. This person who is right in front of me pays for what he's eating. This is what he pays for. But let's say for us in the hospitality, definitely the chef would like to receive a nice fresh cabbage that looks like this, some very nice fruits that look like this, right? And then process them so that they come up here. And then, so the major question is, how many steps you as a hotelier, how many steps do you as a person in the hospitality, how many steps do these raw materials move to be a finished product? Now, we were talking about waste. If some of these elements had been put in your cold rooms or in your fridges and all, they would have been cooled. So the question and the challenge here is the new rethinking by your food and beverage managers, your chefs and others is, how are you going to make sure that, because the guest might want to have a nicely chilled fruit, so, but how are you going to chill it in a way that you don't spend a lot of energy chilling the unnecessary things that should be? As I say, this is new rethinking. How are you going to, this is a nice melon, and I feel nice to have it, but how are you going to serve melon? How are you going to receive it from the farmer? In what format are you going to receive it? Because this customer here does not take a lot of the melon as it is. He takes the melon after you have processed it. All right. And it's very important for you to rethink. Yeah, exactly what you're going to do. So it calls for rethinking. And the new norm is difficult. It was difficult to imagine, but it's not too difficult to really actualize. If you go to some places, let's say like some of supermarkets today, they sell you processed foods. There are some where you can even buy your fruit salad already processed. You can buy just about anything very well processed. So the person now who is going to eat does not even see the peels of the cabbage or most of these fruits or even whatever it is. What they see, let's say from the supermarket, is this finished product. So you as a hotelier, you as a chef, you as a food beverage manager, you as a procurement manager, you as a general manager, rethink this supply chain, because if 80% of this might end up being waste, right? Definitely, you are not going to have a very profitable organization if this person is having to pay a lot. And then, as we saw, all this 34% is the food waste, which then, of course, at the end of the day, all goes down the drain. So one of the challenges that we have, and we really need to rethink, and as I say, these things are doable, is to think of how do we condense all this. Let's look at, for example, a typical case. If you take an airline, let's say Kenya Airways or British Airways, they serve food to the 200-300 guests. Well, nowadays with COVID, I don't know how many will be on that Airbus, but they serve food. How do they serve it? They definitely don't buy food in this format. The guests the passengers who are traveling in that Boeing 747 or whatever it is, are people who they enjoy food, but they enjoy the food that is served on the aircraft. So what's the difference between the food that you serve in your hotel and the food that the airlines would serve? So we need to start thinking, rethinking of how we are really going to do our business. With COVID, definitely some of the areas, protocols that the ministry have announced is, let's say, like banning or even not encouraging buffets. If let's say buffets are not going to be encouraged, the chef, there you are, you have to rethink, how do you prepare yourself? How do you ensure that these things are happening? So uh, some of the issues could be now having a very good relationship with, as I say, when you look at the supply chain, with the farmers. The farmer definitely will be very, very happy to sell you this cabbage, but they'll be very happy to be left with the leaves, because the leaves, maybe the farmer has some cows, or maybe the farmer can have compost. So the farmer will be very, very happy to be left with a lot of this and just tell you what you are going to have on this plate. All right. But today, where do you as a hotelier buy the cabbage? So tomorrow, you need to rethink what type of supply chain you are going to have, all right? So that at least it's a win-win situation for each and every one of us, that the farmer may want to be left with a lot of this for his composting. One time we were looking at something, let's say a French bean grown, let's say in Naivasha. And this French bean is then going to be exported out of JKIA. So you take the French beans will be brought in a nice truck from Naivasha, come to the processing warehouse in Nairobi, and then you cut, so that they're in good sizes. And right there in the cutting, you have 15% of it is waste, all right? Which waste then definitely is not very easy to dispose of in Nairobi. You might want maybe sometimes to cut it all the way back to Naivasha. The transport element that's involved. So here I'm just trying to say that we need to rethink. We need to really sit down and sort of say, yes, this customer is going to pay me. This farmer has what I need. How do I fit myself in between here so that at least the customer pays? And also, how do we plate our food so that we don't throw most of it into the dust? Let's just go to the next. So how do you optimize waste management? One of the things, and this is very, very, very important, dear listeners, is waste audit. Today, we have a lot of what we call audits that we do. We have the environmental audits, we have energy audits, financial audits. But I really think that this is high time now that we need to rethink of re-looking at our audits. You need to look to do a waste audit, identify the types of waste and where they are coming from. If you go to your garbage room, yes, identify all that waste came into your system, and they came in because you requested them. You requested them to come in, either as to give you a value product. So relook at what is being wasted and go back to who initiated that need, and should that need have been, could that need have been met in a different way, all right? Unravel the threads of your waste stream, and this is very, 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 very important. So before the waste bin goes away, take your senior managers, take your people to the waste bin, and let everyone own whatever is being thrown away, and then come up and develop an action plan on why did that thing come in the first place. I know quite a number of us now are starting, let's say, like if food is coming in cartons, you just make sure that you remove your meat and other things from the carton and give the carton back to the supplier, because the supplier is the one who brought the carton, and he didn't come to sell you the carton. He came, let's say, to sell you the meat. So you just take the meat and there. So this is very, very, very important. And it's not that you need to do such a very formal audit, which is also very important. But as I say, Get your group of people, get your managers, even let's say at home, for example, before you throw your garbage, take yourself and your family and find out who is it that owned whatever it is that you are throwing, because you did pay for it at one time or the other. Then form a waste team in your organization. You set your policies and goals, train the staff to look at waste, because as I said earlier on, waste hides right in front of your eyes. So train them and consider staff incentives to boost uptake. It will also be very, very important now to keep statistics, because data is really what helps us to look at this. So keep monthly statistics on waste and recycling. Keep your bills and number, I say, of pickups, I mean, that how many times the takataka people are coming and the weight. Report this, progress against the plan. So that even, when you are meeting with your team, from the chef, as I say, to the general manager, to that person in the kitchen, to wherever it is, all of us now will own this waste, because when waste comes into the organization, it is handled by each and every one of us. So this will be very, very good ways to managing your waste. So just to recap, do waste audit, go through, start from the garbage bin, coming back upstream, and then seeing what is happening. Okay, so then we have the various solutions, and in here now I'd like to call upon Lorraine to give us the solutions on how to manage this. Lorraine, thank you.
Thank you, James. If you can stop sharing your screen, or I think I can just share mine anyway. I will be able to pick up from there.
Yeah, done, stop share, yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. I hope everyone can see my screen now. And based on what James has just described, I think we are forming a picture in our minds of how food waste in particular contributes to the largest percentage of waste generated in hospitality establishments, but also contributes to wastage in other areas, such as your water, your energy, and your staff time, including even your space. I believe James worked on a project previously where he had a client that was actually looking at increasing their food processing space when he came in, and they already had drawn up plans. And by the time he finished working with them, they not only binned those plans, but they had actually almost halved the space that they were actually using for their food processing, based on the principles we are discussing today. So, what are the solutions to these challenges that we are seeing on this 5-star waste journey? We have some pretty good prevention solutions that have been out there for some time. And one of them is menu planning and service. So how are you designing your menu? How are you designing your portion sizes? And are there any a la carte dishes in particular that you could promote more? Do you have days where you go meatless, like I know is the case with the Priding Group? They have days where it's a vegetarian menu. Can you offer smaller plates? And these look to very big discussions between your chef and your procurement team, so that you can come up with innovative ways to respond to your clientele, to your customer, but also to take stewardship of the environment by cutting down on that waste. Also, like James has mentioned, there is the aspect of looking at your supply chain and how you procure. And I would like to believe that a lot of suppliers in Kenya are pretty flexible in terms of their operations, in terms of their outlook towards how they can meet their customers' needs. So if you go to that farmer who supplies your potatoes or your French beans and explain to them that we will continue buying from you, however, this is how we would like you to deliver the items, these items from now on, and get your chef to even go and train them and say, this is how I want my chips cut, to this thickness and this length. This is how I want my cabbage shredded, for instance, so that they are able to, in the process, have enhanced capacity to deliver in a more efficient way, such that when that pickup is coming to you with that delivery of cabbage or carrots or tomatoes or whatever it is, the number of kilos you are paying for there is actually pretty close to the number of kilos of food that you are going to cook for your guests and deliver on their plates. So that's one other aspect. And obviously just trying as much as possible to track your waste. Having a food waste register in your kitchen or your food preparation area is so important. And it can help you to identify where, is it more in spoilage where we are having waste, or is it after service? So do we need to look at our portion sizes again? And from that, you can come up with a good way of managing your inventory and having a very synergized work experience also with your procurement team, and helping them to look at their choice of suppliers from a different lens, from a more sustainable lens, and one that will definitely save your business money. Practical examples, moving away slightly from food. We do have other types of waste that are generated, obviously, in hospitality. And we have a growing number of innovators in the country and on the continent that are looking to solve solutions of waste. So we have an example here of a company called Zijani, and they basically recover and recycle used cooking oil from hotel restaurants, from restaurants and other food processing companies. And they turn this into liquid multipurpose soap, bar soap, and biofuel that you can actually use to power any generators that you may have or engines. I think this really speaks to the whole idea of building a loop, or what some people refer to as circular economy, where one waste product actually is a raw material for something else. I've put the link to their website at the bottom of the slide, and we will be sharing a copy of this presentation with you so that you can look them up if you want to and get more information on their services. I believe James also mentioned Takataka Solutions. I think they are a pretty well-known waste management company in Nairobi, although there are others, such as City Fresh by Sanergy. That's another company that's come up in the more recent past. And basically, these waste collection companies are able to segregate your waste and make sure that as much of it is recycled as possible. With Takataka, they recycle up to 95% of the waste that they collect, and they actually give you monthly reports. And so you're able to tell, we have more of organic, we have more of plastic or this type of plastic, and they even go down to tell you how much carbon emissions you have saved through using their services because of the extent to which they're able to recycle the waste they collect. So remember that when we were being taken through legal obligations on waste management by our friends at NEMA, you need to make sure that whoever is handling your waste is licensed. And these are some of the things that your procurement team will look at. And you can even get paid for certain items that get recycled, such as plastic and glass. So you can shop around between the different companies and find one that suits your whatever it is that you need better, and also in terms of cost, so that you're able, again, to take control of your waste. The reports they generate are very useful in the monitoring that James talked about previously as part of your waste management plan. And so, in summary, what we are saying is that waste is expensive. It's literally like throwing money in the bin. And we've gone through main strategies on how you can take control of your waste and unravel these different threads. I know we've talked about food waste. There's the aspect on plastics and looking at the amenities that you have. If you're a hotel or a lodge, do you really need all those miniatures, or can you find another way to work? Can you get refillable options? Can you move away from bottled water altogether to get dispensed water, like what Aquavita is offering, where they bring you a unit and you know, you're able to cut off the need for plastic bottles. All those sorts of solutions are there so that your waste is no longer expensive, it is minimized, and it is actually reflecting in your bottom line. A key element of all this is training. Your staff need to be empowered. They need to understand what is happening. They need to understand how to review their process and their role, whether I am a housekeeper or whether I am at the front desk or whether I am in the kitchen. I have a role to play in the waste that is generated by the business. And therefore, training for them will be able to ensure the success of your waste reduction initiatives. And finally, get your guests involved. They'll appreciate knowing that you're trying to do something that is good for the environment. And when we are operating in the, if you look at it now from an ethical lens, because sustainability is not only about the environment and about your business, but it's also about people. And in Kenya, we still have a lot of people that are going hungry, as we do in other countries. So why should we be throwing away so much food and wasting so many other natural resources when there are many people that are lacking? So getting your guests involved and encouraging them to take up those practices will help them appreciate your efforts, will also help them to learn something new that they can take back to their homes and their offices. And definitely it does work in terms of encouraging them to come back to your business, because it shows that you're being responsible in the way you do your business. So that said, I'd like to wind up there, and James's contacts are available if you would like to ask any